Okay, we are ready to get started if the room wants to unmute.
Shoes and clothes are. All right.
Okay.
All righty.
Before we launch, let's
yep,
go
go
ahead
ahead.
and convene and then I
I'm
want
gonna
to
go
do
ahead
a
and
quick.
call the meeting to order. And I think what we'll do is just take roll call vote real fast. And I can do that. I can do it. So we have Jimenez, Martinez, Colson in the room for quorum, and Annabelle online, as well as Mark Dyden, but is going to participate as a member of the public.
No, that is not accurate. Mark Dynan is participating remotely under SB 707, a just cause exemption.
Okay,
Okay.
great, fantastic. Okay, thank you, Mark. I'm really happy you're gonna do that way. All right, so we do have a quorum.
You have a quorum.
Okay, so I'm gonna go ahead and open the public comment. Is there any member of the public who would like to make a comment? I don't see any in the room. Anything online, Melly or Brianna? All right,
Nothing
no
online.
comment. We're gonna go ahead and close that. Action to set the agenda and approve the consent items. Would someone like to make a motion? We have Martinez with a motion. Jimenez with a second. All those in favor? Do we have to do a roll call vote again because one's online?
Yes, we do have
Okay.
to do a roll call vote.
Do you want to go ahead and do that, Nellie, or
Yep.
Brianna?
I can do it.
Sure.
Okay. Burlingame,
Yes.
East Palo Alto,
Yes.
Foster City,
Yes.
Los Banos,
Yes.
Redwood City.
Yes.
Thank you. The motion passes.
Wonderful. Chair report, there's really nothing that I have to report. So we'll move on to staff report.
I'm gonna just
Yeah.
quickly jump in. As a quick reminder, there's been some confusion over the weekend, so it bears reminding at this meeting, at the next meeting. We thought there was some relief for elected officials on these committee meetings for you all to be able to participate remotely as just a matter of course. And then there was some pushback and some deeper dive. The deal is this. As an elected official, if you want to participate remotely, it's no problem, but you must let Nellie know 72 hours in advance so that she can post your address. And it can be posted, you need to post it as well, just sort of standard fare. There are 2 just cause exemptions per year for illness or being out of town or whatever else it might be. So unfortunately, the option to go remote just sort of on a moment's notice is no longer an option. But if you want to give us your address and have us post it, you can certainly do that. Okay,
Fantastic.
thank you. Over to Nick.
Okay. I think we have a new finance. Is this your first?
It's my first.
Oh,
So
very good.
welcome.
Yeah,
The team.
welcome.
Sucker. I mean, welcome. I'm excited to be.
Would you stop already?
I'm just kidding. That's my humor.
Thank you.
And,
This is so much of a fun meeting. Yeah.
and you get free
You get good.
donuts
You
and
get donuts
all
and
kinds of
everything.
stuff like that.
Champagne.
no, seriously, welcome. So we have 2 items. Before I get into that, I'm just gonna give a couple updates on what's been going on in finance. As you may remember, we did the RFP for a banking partner. We ended up sticking with JP Morgan, but as part of that process, we came to the realization that there are some benefits of diversification.
Yeah.
So we ended up opening up a bank account, a checking account with River City Bank. So now we have 2 banks, and we moved $20 million into the bank that was currently or was previously at Camp. We still have a lot of other money at Camp. That's California Asset Management Program. And we're earning about the exact same return. So there's no cost. I think it's a good diversification benefit, and God forbid something happens at JP Morgan, we can quickly transition to River City.
Yeah.
As part of the process, we also decided to sort of optimize our interest earning capabilities. And so we changed our account structure at JP Morgan to a sweep account. It sweeps every day into a money market account. We were earning, the numbers move every day, but say we were earning around 2.5% before, 2.75. under this new structure will earn about 3.5%. We don't keep a ton of money at JP Morgan. So it's not a huge difference financially, but we have on average about $15 million. So every bit helps. We did complete our insurance renewal effective May 1st. This went to the board in April. It was on consent item, so hopefully you all saw that. But we finally just put that into action, and so now we're good. We're locked up insurance for the next 12 months. And then finally, which I'll talk about a lot more later this morning, we are right in the middle of budget process. Is taking up 95% of our time. We're in good shape where we are. Most of the meeting will be devoted to that, but that's sort of been where we've been spending our time.
Since we have a relatively new team, I did want to just mention one of the reasons that we're so sensitive or thoughtful about the diversifying our banking situation is because we did have First Republic Bank, and when Silicon Valley Bank went down, we started to get a little concerned about. We were never really worried about, I don't think, default or anything like that on our financials, but eventually that got moved to JP Morgan Chase when they bought them. So we're there now, bigger bank. But we did have to migrate everything and all the systems. And we had to open some temporary accounts to take some money out. And then we had to get back into compliance because it was quick. So it turned out to be kind of a exercise in financial machinations, I would say. So I think as a part of our risk reduction and risk management situation, we moved to this structure. Yeah. Thank you very much.
Sure.
for
No, thank
doing
you all.
that work on that.
So we have 2 items today. The first one I think will be quicker, although happy to go as slow as people want, and that's to review of our third quarter financial results. A reminder, we're on a June 30th fiscal year, so this is the third quarter through March. I have to take a while to get my handle around that.
Yeah.
So it's a good snapshot of where we're going to be for the full year. I will cut to the chase that it's not a huge different story than the second quarter. And that is that we are on track, doing well financially. So I think that's good news, but not a ton to discuss, although I'll go through the numbers. Second agenda item is probably the more meaty and interesting, and that's the budget. For your first look at what we're looking like financially for the next fiscal year, as well as the 4 years after that. So first to go through the third quarter year-to-date results, it's the same structure or similar structure that we've been showing every quarter. So hopefully these pages are starting to look similar, although Stacy, maybe the first time you're seeing this. This is our load. We continue. So the graph on the right is since the beginning of this fiscal year, you can see the budget is that orange/red line, and the blue is the actuals. We've continued over the full year to always be pretty consistently about 6% below our forecasted load. At the beginning of the year, it was due to weather. So you can see in July and August, that line discrepancy was a lot larger, but since then it's pretty much tracked budget. And so the Power Resource team took a deep dive into our budget and our forecasting model, our process, and have tweaked that, taking into account recent trends, electrification, just more up-to-date modeling. And they did a updated forecast, which you can see on the graph on the right is that dotted red line. And since then, we're running a lot closer to the updated forecast. We still like to track versus budget. It's just a good corporate finance, process that we like to do. But there we're about 1.7 below forecast. We have taken that updated modeling into the next year and the next 5 years. So hopefully going forward, we are a lot closer to what we're forecasting. But we have been pretty significantly below budget through this year. And you'll see that run through the financials because that does have an impact both on revenues and costs. So first, let's go through revenues. Again, similar structure. The top table is the quarter results, so just the last 3 months. The bottom table is the 9 months of the year to date. We've got actuals, budget, actuals last year, and then a variance to budget. So sorry, there are a lot of numbers. I try to circle what I think are the most important numbers. But for the third quarter and year to date, our sales are 16% and 9% below budget, respectively. And those are those 2 circles there. A lot of that variance is due to load. I just mentioned load was 6%, so less electrons we're selling means less revenues coming in the door. The other reason for the variance is, as you may remember, we maintained our discount at 10% in February, which was great news that we could do that. We hadn't budgeted for that because we were trying to be prudent. We had budgeted going back to a 5%. And so that's also a variance to revenue. So the combination of those factors is driving this revenues variance. And we should expect to see a similar variance in the fourth quarter. So I'll probably tell you the exact same story. Lower load. Well, we'll see if load is, or not hopefully, we'll see if load continues to be below budget. Obviously, a lot depends on weather. That takes us into the cost of energy. A little more numbers on this page. Again, same structure. The top table is the third quarter, bottom is year to date. For the third quarter, we were significantly below budget. So good news there. It's due to a bunch of factors. The first is load. We're having to buy less electricity for our customers, about 6% less. And so that's going to drive lower cost of energy. We also have seen lower prices. It's a continued trend we've seen throughout the year, and it's actually a trend we're expecting at least in the next couple of years. And you'll see that in the budget in the next section. A couple other factors that drove some of the variance. You can see the REC GHG free variance of about $5 million. That was due to some optimization, the timing of some PCC1 sales that we had previously spread out throughout the year for a budgeting perspective, but all happened in this quarter. So that's sort of a timing variance. You'll also see that our contingency, we budget for, you'll talk about this in the budget process. We budget about 7 to 10% of cost contingency. If there's a heat wave or something crazy should happen, we've yet to have to use that contingency. And so you can see in the quarter, we had budgeted 5.9 million. We didn't have to use any of that. So that's a straight variance to the budget. So all that together, and there's a ton that goes on. Obviously, these are a lot of dollars at stake. There's a lot more that I could go into, but in the interest of sort of summary, a good story here, variance to budget, both for the third quarter as well as year to date. I do want to comment, and I put this at the last bullet point here, is while this is all great news for cost of energy, keeping our costs low, it does have a secondary impact on the PCIA, which you'll see in the budget process because it devalues PG&E's portfolio. They have the same situation, which causes that exit fee to increase. And so we'll talk about that and you'll see how that's changed from what we were expecting before.
Can I ask a question on this, Nick?
Sure.
And I just want to see if anyone else has any as well. So when we're buying energy, so we're purchasing energy, we're looking at our load and we're matching our acquisitions. So if we've over procured, we're disposing on the market.
Correct.
So we're getting revenue from
We
things.
sell it.
We sell it and we can't use it. If we've under procured,
You buy the day.
we're buying. So there's a sort of baseline that we have pre-procured.
Correct.
And then there's this delta.
The day of that we're
sits
tweaking,
Sits in there, and that's where the big variances tend to be.
Yeah, and we try to, Roy could go into this a lot more. We are largely hedged. So we
Right.
purchase ahead. So we don't want a ton of, we call it open positions, but it happens. You can't exactly match, who knows every day how
Yeah,
much
there's a
I've
heat
joked.
wave or whatever. And this is another thing, just to give a little, since we have newer people on the finance committee. So I've been doing this now for a decade for these guys, and what we found out, we had some massive variances right before Sean came on, like huge variances that were creating. But essentially they were problematic because we were looking at the portfolio, we were looking at it one day saying, are we hedging our portfolio at all? And we weren't. So the risk management situation that we now, so we started with the opportunity to hedge the portfolio so we could lock in costs, so we weren't going to be subject to vicissitudes of like a really volatile market. And so we've been able to kind of color that and hedge that, which I really appreciate. And then also just the kind of the more global thinking around risk management is somewhat, it's something Nick's really brought on. So I really want to pay Nick and Sean, I really want to make sure everyone understands these are as the organization has matured, they've really stepped in and professionalized a lot of the potential risks that we had when we were starting. It took everyone a little while to really understand that there's the buying energy piece, then there's all these other kinds of organizational risk, whether it's HR or, variety of things that we've managed to, I think, really flatten.
Yeah, this is a huge risk that we've largely mitigated. I mean, you're gonna see some variance because you can't match it perfectly, but we shouldn't see, we know pretty far in advance, at least several quarters, what our average cost of energy is gonna be. Things happen, load changes, a heat wave. One thing we saw in this most recent quarter that actually benefited us, which is kind of weird, is we have these PPAs, these long-term contracts. They weren't generating as much as we expected. They have outages or the sun doesn't shine. And so then we've got to go buy in the open market to replace that. Well, prices are lower, so it actually was to our benefit. So those kind of things can happen, but we do try to mitigate almost entirely the price of energy, just the load that can vary.
And the thing we're working on now, then we'll move along, is really tightening that variance. So it was much bigger. We're down to about 4 to 6% on average since Nick's been here, and we're trying to really match that. It's impossible to do one for one, but I think we're on our way to that.
This is the full income statement, financials. The next page is the quarter, but I think the year to date is probably more relevant because in each quarter there can be timing issues. So just again, same structure. I'll focus mostly on that box, the column on the right. That's the variance, which I think is most relevant. I already talked about how revenues were lower, largely due to load. Cost of energy was also lower due to load as well as some price variance. The net of those two is $6.5 million favorability. Then you see the next category, which I haven't talked about yet. Those are our operating expenses. Those are the ones that we have a little more control over. Cost of energy, we do our best and we do a great job, but we're a little bit beholden to the markets. These are a little more of the discretionary costs. Think of some of them are not discretionary, like the data manager and PG&E fees we have to pay, but professional fees, marketing, programs. And one thing that I want to comment here, I'm really proud of the team, is every one of those cost categories is positive. So through year to date, all those collectively were $6 million favorable. The largest variance is programs. That's also our largest cost category. That one is not necessarily due to our doing. We've seen some delays in some programs we've tried to roll out, so we want to get things right. We haven't seen the uptake as much as we thought, so we'll see that pick up next year. It's actually harder to get money out the door than we sometimes expect to give it to folks. And then the last variance is the non-operating income, which is basically interest income on our cash. Interest rates have been higher than we expected, as well as our cash balance a little higher than we were expecting. So net, when you put all that together, a lot of numbers on the page, but the lower right corner, 15.8, that's our favorability to budget for change in net position through 3 quarters. If all goes well in the fourth quarter, we hope to see a number similar to that, maybe even larger, depending how the last 3 quarters go. So a good story, similar story to the second quarter, but it's nice to have another 3 months sort of under our belt. And so we're feeling really confident for the whole year. This is the third quarter. There's a lot more variance, reds and blacks. I won't go into it because there is some timing, but it's the same story as we talked about. Last page before I get into the budget is our cash position. The top 4 rows are where we keep our cash. JP Morgan is the bank account. We try to keep around 15 million there. And then we've got Camp, PFM, and Chandler. Our cash position in the third quarter largely stayed constant. The reason days cash on hand goes up is because it's a percentage of it's relative to our expenses. And if expenses go down, it's going to make our days cash on hand go up. I will comment that you'll see this in the budget. We expect to see this number decline significantly over the next 12, 24 months. So we're fortunate that we have this much cash and this much cushion, but it will soon go out the door.
Go away.
Right,
Go away.
and Nick, so this doesn't show the addition of River City Bank.
That didn't happen until after March.
But where there's only 18 million with JP Morgan in our cash account, so it did come out of JP Morgan, we split that in half or something?
No, it came out of camp.
Oh, we moved it out of camp, okay,
Yeah.
great, okay, great.
Yeah, so this
Great,
is as of
'cause I was-
March, so we have it, we,
Oh, yeah, that's
That happened in
perfect,
April.
I think that's good, then
Yeah.
camp rebalances down a little closer to PFM and Chandler.
correct.
Okay.
So that is, any question, that's, I mean, there's a couple appendix
I
pages.
do point out that days cash on hand, sometimes outsiders don't always have a great understanding of the long-term nature of our operations here and the reason we've created the rate stabilization fund, the round fund, and how we all those also tie into our credit rating, which although we're not getting loans or anything, so we're not borrowing money, but when we go to market on our bond, we do our little bond things. When we go out on to market on just a variety of
PPAs, it helps.
PPAs and everything, having that credit rating is helping us not have to have letters of credit and other kinds of financial instruments backing all of us because our credit is so good. So, and I've been in a number of those meetings with S&P and who else?
Moody's.
Moody's is our other one. And they always ask, like, are you willing to raise rates if you need to keep your business solvent? And the big thing really just, don't you think, next sort of is around solvency and
Yes.
ability to continue to operate your business. So, I have it on fairly good information that some elected officials in this county don't understand all of this and have been sort of spreading it and having conversations around it, like, why do we have all this cash? And it should be used for something, but we're using it to operate the business.
And
So,
we're using it,
Well,
I'm gonna add to that. In public, we are definitely using it to keep rates
yeah,
low.
oh, yeah, and we're using it
And
to.
we're about
create
to spend it down.
affordability.
So
Yeah.
that solvency, but also really that rate stabilization fund is the rainy day fund.
Yep.
So that we can continue, we're about to see this.
Yeah,
Good segue.
Yeah.
Yeah,
But
good
please, if you
segue.
guys are hearing that, I'm gonna make a request that if you hear that chit chat, please take the opportunity to educate, because that's really what it's about. For us, it's not stockpiling cash on hand.
yeah.
Thank you.
And when we do keep rates low, the great thing about that is it's not an official program, if you will, but it is a way that we, back to our ratepayers.
Yeah.
Benefit, right?
Absolutely.
All of them fairly equally, in other words, everybody gets the same 5 or 10% discount.
Yes,
So
it's true.
And is that a restriction with the contingency fund that it has to
No,
be
no,
used
no,
for the
no.
consumers or?
The contingency fund?
That's in Power Resources. And we put that there, nickel, tell us what it is this year, but it's essentially our own quote hedge. So we've had a couple of years where we've had a heat spike and had to go out on the open market. And one year we got caught to the tune of 30 million. So it was like, let's have a placeholder there. So we're not going into a deficit situation. That's why
So
it's
did you
there.
mean the contingency or the rate stabilization fund?
No, the contingency,
Okay.
yeah,
It's only for Power
Yeah, that's
Resources.
for,
That's the
Got it.
biggest piece of our
Okay.
budget, and that's why it's there.
that makes sense.
Off you go, Nick.
okay, so this is the meat of the meeting, I think, the budget. Please jump in with questions. Before I get started, I do want to thank,
Before we go on, I just want to ask if there's any
oh,
members of
sorry, I
the public
apologize.
Public
who have comments on the third quarter financials?
Or Mark or Marion.
Yeah, or Mark or anyone. Okay, great. We'll go ahead and close public comment and move on to the budget.
Okay. Before I begin, I do want to recognize and thank Haley, who's in the room here. Haley
Hi.
just returned from maternity leave, actually, too.
Oh, yay, Haley.
I think this is her
Wow.
first meeting.
Happy Mother's Day.
And came back, she planned the pregnancy. But she was very accommodating and came back and right in time for budget season and has been working very hard on this. A lot of numbers gonna go through. If you have any questions, please ask. This is always a challenge for us because there's a lot of numbers, details behind, but we try to up level it for board discussion. But we could go into details in any single number. So please feel free to ask questions. Why is this going up? Why is this going down? I just didn't want to inundate you with too many numbers. So as a reminder, we're looking to set the budget in June, the board. This is one of the first stop along the way. We have another finance committee next month. We'll decide if we still need to have it, if there are any changes, and then we'll also take this to the executive committee in June, and then the June board meeting for their approval. The financials will change a little bit. We're looking just for approval for 1 year budget is what we do, but we do provide 4 more years of forecast, just because if I was a board member, you'd want to know what happens next. And so that's the
just right there,
genesis.
Nick, on that, I'm gonna be out for,
Right.
I'm taking a little bit of leave just for a month. Cece, would you run that meeting when I'm not here? Would you vice chair that, please, for me? Thank you.
Okay, so similar structure, although it's a little different, but we're going to first talk about cost of energy and then go into the other cost categories, and then we're going to talk about revenues and rates. So this is by far our largest cost category, cost of energy. We've shown here fiscal year 25, so those are obviously actual results. Fiscal year 26 for all these pages is where we think we're going to end up for the full year. We're still 3 months away, but that's our best estimate at this point. And then we've got the 5 years of forecasts, the budget, which is the most important that we're looking to set, and then the 4 more years. I will say, as you get past the budget, after 2 years, 3 years, the forecasts become less certain. Cost of energy is probably where we have the most insight. The others were kind of just escalating generally. So there's not we could go into those numbers, but I don't have a ton of confidence that once we get out, 1 or 2 years. So cost of energy, I think the good news here is if you look at the bottom row, this is the increase, the year-over-year increase decrease. And you can see in the current fiscal year 26, we're expecting our total cost to go down by 18%. That's mostly due to decreased prices, which is great. And we're kind of expecting costs to stabilize at those depressed levels for the next 2 years. And after that, there's some moderate increase due to various reasons. So I think that's a really good story. Around $300 million basically over this year, next year, and the year after. All these numbers assume modest load growth. We're not expecting a ton of new development in the service territory, data centers, but we've assumed about 2% load growth for new developments, economic growth, electrification. And that 2% load growth is less than we've been forecasting in the past. So hopefully a more reasonable. As Elmer, you mentioned, we do assume a contingency. We've assumed $20 million in the current next year in the budget year. That's about 7% of revenues. Historically, we've sort of tried to target around 10%, but because of all the hedging, the success we've had there, we think we can bring that contingency number down to 7%. And even in the out years, we're actually bringing it down closer to 5%. And so knock on wood, we haven't had to use contingency for the last 2 years. And so we're feeling a little bolden maybe, and we're bringing that down over the next few years.
And can I ask a question? When we don't use our contingency, then we end up hopefully with a positive variance at the end.
Correct.
That just goes back into retained earnings?
Correct.
Okay.
And can be used in the next year to lower rates and revenues. There's a ton of detail behind these numbers. Roy's team has excellent modeling capabilities. This is probably the most focus we have on any of the forecasts. These are all based on a forward price curve. So they'll take, third-party data. They'll look at load. They'll look at the PPAs we're signing. There's numbers go up and down. Like I ask, why in fiscal year 29 do the cost of energy go up by, almost $15 million? That's due to some higher priced PPAs that are coming on in line in that year. So there's a story behind all these numbers, so to speak. Energy, and I never really went through this, so I apologize. This is the categorization that we've come up for sort of board level discussions. Energy is, I guess you could call sort of brown power, the cost of just the electron, based largely on load and the forward price curve. Capacity is largely our compliance cost there. We have to buy resource adequacy. You can see the costs have come way down, which is good. They were a lot higher back in fiscal year 25, but we expect those costs to steadily increase over the forecast period. This line item also includes some batteries that we're bringing online, that we use for capacity. REC GHG free, those are, PCC ones that we sometimes have to purchase to clean up our energy portfolio. We expect to be a net seller of those over the next few years, so that's why you see a negative. Other is net energy metering costs, as well as forecasting and scheduling cost, and then we have the contingency. So sorry I didn't go through all those categories, but any questions here? Roy's, I believe, also on the line and could probably do a better job answering questions, but this is a huge cost category, obviously, for us and where we spend most of our time forecasting.
I wanna just kind of quickly clean up one quick thing,
Sorry.
and that is, the energy there is not, it's not brown power. I wanna be careful about
Yeah,
that,
yeah,
right?
yeah,
So, because what that is, and Roy's gonna do a deeper dive on this, it's timely, because you'll be hearing more at the May board meeting. But essentially, that's the energy that we procure on the open market. It comes out of think of the transmission system as an open highway, right? And so we're all pulling from that system, from all the pool of electrons that are both brown and clean and renewable. So we'll have more on that, but
Yeah, and that includes also our PPAs.
Those
we
are the
sell to
electrons we
markets.
buy.
Yeah, the elect.
okay.
And I'm sorry, remind me, RACCHG is.
Say again?
What is the acronym RACCHG?
Our renewable energy credit.
Yeah.
Which is how, that's essentially the accounting methodology for those electrons, and then GHG, greenhouse gas emissions free
Thank you.
resource. That's okay. It takes a
I'm
long
sorry.
time to learn it. Okay, go ahead.
Okay,
I know we
so
got a lot
that's
to get
cost
through.
of energy. The next category is a bunch of costs. This is the operating expenses. Again, these are the more discretionary costs we have. I've pulled out of this programs, which I have two separate pages on programs, given that's in such an important driver. So you can see, just to explain what's in these categories, compensation is pretty self-explanatory. That's salaries plus all the benefits, health benefits, employee retirement accounts. Data manager and service fees, we've grouped together. Those are the fees we pay Calpine to process all of our payments, as well as the fees we pay PG&E to bill for us. Those are not really discretionary. And they've been largely flat, although slight increase in the out years. Consulting and legal is just that, consulting fees we pay, as well as outside legal costs. The largest driver there on the legal side is Power Resources. We hire specialized legal counsel to help us negotiate these power purchase agreements. Marketing spend also includes community relations, so it's maybe a little bit not the best title, but that is obviously all the costs we spend to get the word out on our programs, to maintain relationships with the community, this includes all the grants we give to various COB, various organizations. And then general and admin, I know that seems like a catch-all, but that includes rent on our buildings. It includes software costs. So that's probably one of the biggest drivers. It includes insurance, thank you, some of the finance, all the banking fees, investment management fees, travel and expense, so all those other costs. So good story here is you can see the growth rate has been moderating. We've had to invest over the last few years to really bulk up our back office support system. I think we got a little revenues grew faster than our costs. You can see that moderating, so down from 22.9%. We're now forecasting 6% this year, which is pretty close to inflation, and then a pretty moderate growth thereout. I will comment here a couple things I put in the bullets. We've assumed no new headcount for the first time, I think, ever. We've added hires over the last few years to sort of catch up from some investments we've needed to make. We are putting a pause on that, and so we don't expect any new net headcount growth this year. We may have, hopefully we don't, but we may have some people who leave and we'll replace those, but no new positions in the forecast. So the growth there is just merit increases of about 5%.
Can I make a fine point there, just for your awareness? If we get the microgrid funding that we hope to hear about this week, and then there's energy efficiency, program funding coming on, we will need to hire for those. Those are reimbursable positions. So Just to be clear, I don't anticipate having to hire in this coming fiscal year, but you will see some of that. And I think you have a slide that talks a little bit about that later.
Yeah.
Compensation.
I could just add a question or maybe a comment. Having a new sensitivity for ransomware and cyber attacks and things that are happening. Are you sure that you're spending enough money on protecting the data in your systems? I'd encourage you to look at all of the things that need to happen.
It's definitely one of the top risks we've identified is cybersecurity risk. And I know Kim and team have been.
Yeah, we did a deep dive from the
We
board's
did an audit.
request. About 6 months, 9 months ago, we brought in a consultant. We put in place a game plan on sort of what would happen and sort of what things we would do. We increased our spending, so the software cost does include additional cybersecurity. Can't say we're
Well, I mean,
zero
nobody's
risk.
ever perfect. I mean, if they're gonna get in, they're gonna get in. But I know that there's just layers of things that we can. Yeah. So, okay, thanks.
So that's operating expenses. The next group of costs is programs, and sorry, these numbers are getting a little smaller and there's more on the page. Let me just level set what you're looking at here. The top group of numbers are the way we put this together for board level discussion is the various programs we have, and where we're spending those dollars. So you can see buildings, that's home electrification. Electric vehicles is largely the chargers that we're putting in that you've heard about. Distributed energy, that's a new and growing category. Well, I guess it's not growing the dollars amount here, but that's a new category. And then energy efficiency, this is the dollars that Sean mentioned. If we do get these dollars from the CPUC, you'll see the expenses growing, but you'll also see revenues growing. So those are all the cash going out the door. That's the top group of numbers. What we've added for this page is we do get reimbursed for a lot of these programs. And so those are the bottom is the money coming in the door. I guess they all look positive, so I apologize about that. But so you've got the expenses at the top, we call them reimbursements at the bottom. So you can see that energy efficiency funding, that is the reimbursement that we would be getting from the commission if we get the funding, which we expect to do. So you can see the dollars expense going up, but you can also see the funding going up. When you net all this together, that's what I've called the net expenses. And the story there is it's pretty consistent, pretty flat. And so while we are expanding these programs, we're thankfully getting third-party funding to support them, which is great news to always use others' money.
Absolutely.
Any questions here on programs? We've really spent a lot of time digging deep into sort of where are we spending money in this area? And we've actually pulled back a little bit. As you'll see in our financial position, we do expect to be challenged over the next few years. And so this is an area where Raphael's team have really tightened their belts to make sure that we're only spending dollars prudently. The next group of numbers is.
Jen has her hand up.
Oh, sorry.
Oh, thank you.
Hello, I would just like to remind everyone who's on camera, who's participating, including Mary Amabile, if we could just turn on our cameras, please. Thank you.
Okay, go ahead, Nick.
Okay. The next group of categories is also programs, but it includes capital expenses. And so for those of you who are, I know, maybe not accountants, they're all dollars going out the door. Expenses are generally costs that are incurred for, think, current period expenses, compensation, consulting costs, incentives that we spend out the door. Capital is, I mean, this is a generic term, but steel in the ground. So when you're building something, you capitalize it and you end up depreciating it over however long that capital is going to last. And so it's a different category. These dollars don't show up on that income statement. And so as these programs have increased, we've tried to bring more airtime to them because there's still dollars at stake. And so these are the various capital programs we have. Again, it's a similar structure that I just walked through. The top is money going out the door, so capital expenditures, and the bottom is capital reimbursements. So we get money back from a lot of these capital programs, and I'll go through those right now. So on the capital expense, the first row is on-bill financing. This is a program we've had for, I think before I joined, 3 or so years, where we are lending money to our customers to electrify their homes, and soon to be put solar on their rooftop. And so we're giving them on-bill financing. We're basically lending them money so they can do it if they don't have the cash on hand. That money basically comes back in the next set of numbers, on-bill financing, as they pay back those loans, knock on wood.
Yeah.
And so
Zero default so far.
zero default
Yeah,
so
and
far.
We don't, what do we
It's great.
charge? Our interest rate is zero, right?
Zero.
Zero interest, so.
And so it's using our money, but once the program gets up and running, you can see in the out years, it's largely, hopefully, self-sufficient. So as money goes out, money comes in. So that's that first group of
And this-
rows
The payments are made to deduct, are
from their bill.
from the bill.
It's
Yeah.
on
the
bill,
PG.
exactly, which is great because most people pay their electric bill versus
Yeah.
sometimes.
Yeah, car payment.
Yeah. The next group of numbers is GovPV, a program you've all heard of. These, I think we probably have systems in all of your communities. The top is the capital going out the door. So GovPV 2, GovPV 3, these are the dollars. And then if we went back another year, you'd see even bigger numbers. We are expecting this program to potentially pivot to using third-party funding, and that's why you see in GovPV, there's no numbers in fiscal year 28 and beyond. Raphael's, I think, shared with this group, or we're talking to the iBank about getting loans. So that's why the program may continue, but it won't be our money. And that's what this page is showing. And so you can see those dollars are showing zero. On the bottom group of numbers, the GovPV revenue, that's the PPAs, the revenue that we collect from all of you coming in. And so we expect that to be about 1.8 million, kind of flatlining for the foreseeable future, if I even went further out. So that's the GovPV program, sort of the second row in each category. The third number is microgrid capital. This is a new program, which you've heard Yana talk about in, I think, this meeting and the board meetings. This is assuming we get the money, we have to forecast it, but there will be, while we are getting money back from the CPUC and San Mateo County, we do expect to be net out some capital. This is the top is us spending the money to build the microgrid in Pescadero, knock on wood. And then the bottom there, the microgrid reimbursement, that's the money we expect to get from San Mateo County, $3 million in fiscal year 28, and then CPUC of $2.5 million a year. And so those are those group of numbers.
As a quick reminder, the capital that we set aside for the microgrid, it was a result of the surplus fund exercise we did, I think maybe before you came on.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Stacy, where we set aside 12 million for the microgrid, and this is now the expression of that.
The only number I didn't comment here in the investment tax credit. This is money that we historically have gotten about 30% of the capital we spend on GovPV back from the federal government to incentivize renewable development. Those numbers are, they come in lump sums. We got a check for $3.9 million last year. We're expecting $7.5 million this coming budget year. These are for monies that we've spent in the past. The reason, again, it's zero going out, one, we're not spending any more of our money, and two, the investment tax credit, I believe, is sunsetted anyway.
Yes, it is.
Under this new administration. Maybe it comes back in the future, but those are all those numbers. So net, again, same structure. You can see the net capital at the bottom. It actually is negative in the budget year, but you can see it's positive and negative each year depending on the timing of those cash flows. They're kind of lumpy. And depreciation expense, this is what does show up on our income statement. This is basically depreciating the capital that we invest from, as could go back several years, depends on the lifetime of the assets. So that's capital. When you add all that together, this is what we're calling net costs. So this is the total costs to run the agency. Includes the cost of power, all those operating costs, including compensation, the program costs. When you add that all up and you subtract up the reimbursements, so the negatives there are, reimbursements that we're getting from whether it's the CPUC or San Mateo County or GovPV revenue that we get. as well as operating income, that's interest income that we get on our cash. You can see the green line there is the net costs of running the agency, and the good news is it was down 14% in the year we're in right now, largely due to the cost of energy being lower. And we're expecting it this coming year to be down 2%, and thereafter, about 5 to 10%, depending on the year. And so this is how much, ideally, revenue we need to collect to run the business. And that's where we're going to transition into the next section of the discussion of what do we need to set our rates at to collect enough revenue to cover these costs. Any questions before I turn into the next section, which is it is entirely on revenues and rates?
Anyone online? Questions? Good.
Okay, before I do that, I do want to set the stage on one of the headwinds that we are facing, and that's PCIA and PG&E rates. The reason these are both important is that PG&E is theoretically our competition. It's what we are comparing our prices to. And so ideally, we want to set our rates less than PG&E's, including the PCIA. So there are important numbers that we track because our goal is to set our revenues below that. Unfortunately, what's been going on with PG&E rates and the PCIA has been not helping our cause, so to speak. And so I want to show a graph here. There are going to be some lines that sort of fly in, but hopefully it tells a good picture. This is a graph of the parity rate to PG&E. So if we wanted to charge our customers the exact same as PG&E, not saying we do, but this is just a number we look at, and then we try and take a discount off that. You can see historically, and I think this is a graph we've shown before, the numbers have bounced around. They were low at around 6 cents back in 2020, 2021 is before my time. Over the last 4 years, we've enjoyed, this is what our competition is charging. They've charged a really high rate, and so that's allowed us, if we want to set a rate below that, to also charge a higher rate. And you can see the number, 12, 14, 16%, 16 cents, excuse me. This is kilowatt hour. This is on a calendar year basis too. That's how PG&E sets rates. So it's a little different than how we look at things. So it's not, but this is how they set it. In 2026, which is the year we're in, we knew this was coming and we're experiencing it right now. The parity rate is down to, I think it's like 6.5 cents or so on this graph. So this is what we're dealing with now. Last time we looked, when we forecasted this out, when we put the budget together a year ago, we expected this 2026 to be sort of a 1-year blip for a variety of reasons. You may have heard sort of, true ups, things that we've talked about in the past. We expected it to bounce back up to, not to where it was before, but to around 10 cents a kilowatt hour and kind of flat line out. Again, in the outer years, they're largely guesses. They're not guesses, they're estimates, but at least we expected in 2027 it to go back up to 10 cents. The problem we're dealing with is, remember how I showed you the cost of energy has been a lot lower than budget? That's because power prices have been a lot lower. That's good news for cost of energy, but bad news for PCIA. And so what we're seeing right now, when we look out on the forward price curve and we estimate what's going to happen next year, I will caveat that this is an estimate. We're doing our best. Our goal is to forecast the future. Hopefully we're wrong here in this situation, but we expect things to actually get worse in 2027. We expect PG&E rates to, I think, stay about the same, maybe even go down, but we also expect the PCIA to increase yet again. And so we're now expecting parity rate to be 5.5 cents next year versus we were expecting 10 cents. So that's a difference of 4.5 cents.
It's terrible.
This is bad news, not to be all, bummer here.
Forecast.
I'm just sort of letting the stage on what we're dealing with. So that's a 4.5 cent difference if we want to charge the same rate. Just to give you a rule of thumb, each 1 cent is about $35 million of revenue. So 4 cents is $160 million of revenue that we potentially are gonna have to decrease if we want to match PG&E rates or set them less. So this is just to set the stage. We've been dealing with this for the last few months, but we want to bring you into the inner circle, the situation.
So Nick, I wanna make sure we all kind of understand this, at least I do. I think we have the same situation with water, if we do water, right, where the like, so, in other words, so that it's good for the customers, because prices are going down, right? So overall affordability, but in terms of managing a business that delivers it, it puts a lot of pressure on us.
Because of this PCIA situation.
Right. Yeah, and as people conserve and things and everything drops down, like the demand drops, the revenue. Our revenue drops, we may have to offload some if demand is lower.
Yeah,
Yeah, but not as much. Really, it's more the price.
it's the pricing. I mean, to be honest, over the next few years, you'll see we're gonna lose money on every
Contract.
every kilowatt we sell. And so actually load is less.
We're better off.
We'd be better to go away for a couple of years until things return to normal.
Okay.
We don't have the luxury, we're here to serve our
But this is
customers.
also why, we have been prudent in
Yeah.
putting money away.
Mhm.
So it's all, and I was talking to Nick about this. It would be interesting to do this over the 15 years that CCAs have existed. I mean, obviously it started with one and now we're 25, but it's been cyclical. And I would say in about 5-year increments. It's just cyclical. So this is something that we deal with. And so you're gonna see.
Sean, how do you think and we'll maybe see a little bit of this week if we're going to the conference. How do you feel the other CCAs are equipped to manage this? And I think the reason it's important is because if one of them goes down or two go down, all of a sudden the light gets shined on all of us. So we can be the healthiest CCA in the state, but if others haven't managed as well as we have.
You'll see how they're managing
You're
it in a
going
couple
to because-
pages.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
What's
they're-
happening is
They're raising their
their
rates.
rates are higher. They have to
Oh,
be
got it.
significantly higher to keep, excuse me, the business solvent.
Mhm.
But they're not meeting that affordability bogey. And that, sorry, that is something that is, these guys know,
So
very, very important to us.
So it's just, so they're delivering cleaner energy, but it's at a higher cost.
And it's just spiked in this year because of this perfect storm of lower rates and PCIA. And what you'll see, sorry, and then we'll go there, is that in PG&E's territory, it's especially bad. It's not quite as bad in Southern California.
And
Yeah.
So we knew 2020, calendar 26 was gonna be tough. And we have enough cash and revenues. What we didn't know, the new information is that 27 year was gonna be another bad year, if not worse. And so thankfully, we have enough cash. World is not over, but just, it's now gonna last 2 years, basically.
Yeah.
So, okay, so setting the stage, next few pages, I'm gonna go through some scenarios. So what do we wanna do? This is the situation we're up against. This is what our competitors, quote, unquote, competitors charging. So what do we wanna do? We have several options to set our rates. We're gonna show you 3 different scenarios. There are a bunch of graphs and they're all the 3 scenarios. The first one is a 10% discount. So if we wanna set our rates, that's what we're charging right now, at a 10% discount to PG&E. This is the revenues that we would collect. Sorry, the numbers you can't see, they're in black, but you can get an idea where they are on the scale. If we were to charge 5%, we get a little more revenues because it's less of a discount, so our rates go up a little bit. If we were to charge 1%, a little more, not rocket science. What I've added here is the revenue requirement. This is the net costs, and you can see in almost every year, we are collecting revenues below what it costs to run the agency. Now, we have cash in the bank
Spending it
that we
down.
can use, but that's what we're gonna be using. And so this just gives you an idea of 3 different scenarios. None of them are great, but one is better than the other, which is better than the other. This is the same graph, but change in net position. So it's basically the difference between that revenue requirement and the revenues we collect. So this is sort of the profitability under the 3 scenarios. These are negative numbers. So at a 10% discount, you can see the numbers. We would lose 123 million over the next 2 years. It gets a little better because of that graph. Remember, it goes up after that. At 5% discount, it's a little better. At 1%, you can see we just sneak into sort of profitability or break even out by 2031. Sorry, there's no fiscal years on this page. And then here you can see I added up all those bars on the right. So the cumulative loss, the cumulative change in net position is a negative $382 million under a 10% discount, 277, 192. You may ask this question, well, how much do we have in the rate stabilization fund? We have $128 million. We have more cash than that, but that's what we have in the sort of technical rate stabilization fund.
Yeah, so hold on.
Yep.
Sorry, this one to me is really important.
Yep.
So $128 million is what we've been carrying over since we started that in 2024, fiscal year 24.
Yep.
And that is inclusive of the 500 million-ish.
It's in there, yeah.
It's all within there. So I just want to stop here because what you see up above, now these are all projections. We feel confident in the next 2 years. After that, it's hard to know, right? Remember that it's cyclical. So this is the spend down of those reserves, inclusive of the rate stabilization fund under these different scenarios.
And the next set of pages shows the cash. So I think we'll
Great.
show
Thank
just
you.
that. So this is, what does that mean in our cash position? Cash is regal. That's our lifeblood. We don't want to run out of cash. That's bad for a CFO. Same situation, 3 scenarios, 10% discount. You can see the cash position steadily decreases to $75 million, which is much less than we'd like. You can guess the other, you can guess the trend. At a 5% discount, it goes down, but not as drastically. And at a 1%, you can see the numbers there. What I think is a better graph is this next one, which is the days cash on hand. This is a metric that we use. The target, the 250 days is what our target days cash on hand. So how much we would like to have in an ideal world. That's what the agencies want to see, at least this number, 250 days. The bottom dotted line is our absolute minimum, where we have a policy. If we drop below that, we have to increase rates. So we are hoping to never get to that bottom line. And you can see the 3 scenarios again. I'm sure you get the story. The blue line is the 10%, quickly dipping below that 180 in 2 years, 5%, and then the 1% discount. So this is all setting the stage on what do we want to do.
So, Nick, have we ever thought about doing a blended, like we can go to 5% discount, go back to originally our discount was 5.
Mhm.
Could we go to a 5% and just keep an eye on things and then blend it out to
Yes.
maybe a 1?
Can you hold that
Yeah,
thought?
okay.
Because
okay.
that is, yes, well, that's actually our recommendation.
Oh, great, okay, yeah.
But this is just the easy, if we wanted to keep it for
Yeah,
the
yeah,
whole
this-
5-year
this
period,
gives
which we
you-
would never do,
Yeah,
we're only
yeah,
setting rates for the next 6 months.
Yeah,
But if you wanted to keep it at a 10% or 5% or 1%, this just gives you an idea. So a blended would be between lines, you get a
right,
picture.
right, right.
Before I get in there, you might be asking, well, what do other CCAs doing? And so this is benchmarking. And so just to level set you on this graph, this is all of the PG&E territory CCAs ranked from highest to lowest on rates. And then the dotted line is PG&E's average generation rate. And you can see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 of our peers are above PG&E's rate. So you asked the question, Donna, what are others doing to manage through the situation?
Mhm.
They are charging a higher rate than PG&E. They are cleaner, I hope cleaner, but not cheaper. You can see us way to the right. Our current discount is 10%. I'm not saying that'll continue, but this is all current snapshot. We are the lowest rate and the lowest discount.
Mhm.
And you can see
everyone else is maintaining closer to.
they're all,
highest
I think,
discount.
sort of symbolic, saying 1% to say can say on their website, we are cheaper,
Mhm,
which
mhm.
has marketing value.
Right, right.
But also,
But this
yes,
is today's dollars.
This is today
Correct, this is today's, so.
Today's rates.
So
from their
question
websites.
becomes, into the future, how many of these are gonna end up having to exceed that line? And my guess is anyone who's at parity, if they don't have, like, I'd be so interested to see what their reserves are. Do you have that?
We do, not in the media. We've looked at the average because we've done some benchmarking on how much reserves other people have. So a lot of them have a lot of reserves. So I'm
Good.
guessing like one we keep we're the closest with is Silicon Valley. They've got a lot of reserves. They are, I think, being prudent. I've talked to their CFO. They know that cliff is coming. They've seen that
Yeah.
Yeah,
graph.
this
and
is
they're-
their planning.
That's their plan.
exercise.
So they did it
That's right.
a little before us, but
Uh-huh.
I can't speak for
Can
everyone
you
of
tell
these.
me, CPSF is the Clean Power San Francisco?
Correct.
Wow, look at that.
Yeah,
And then 3C is the what is
Monterey Bay.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm a payer there.
Pioneer,
Pioneer.
Pioneer,
Marin.
Marin,
MC,
MC,
Sonoma.
Sonoma, okay. Silicon Valley, Ava is East Bay,
Yep. Redwood.
Redwood.
There's also data that shows over time, that you have a certain elasticity with customers. So this is the other overlay that we look at in terms of opt-out rate. Because you gotta run the business, you gotta keep your customers to run your business, right? So we always are striving to balance that environmental stewardship with affordability, which affordability is just overtaken it right now at this moment in time. So we're paying attention to that. But what we found across the state in terms of elasticity is that, you're really within 1% or even parity, your customers are not tracking that and they really don't. I don't really know right now, and we may find out later what's happening with opt-outs for our other organizations here, but that's a scenario on the left that I don't find particularly acceptable.
No.
And so that's nothing that we
Well,
hope to
and-
ever
And
see.
there's also, I'm gonna say like, the elasticity of demand also has to do with, I hate to say it sounds really coarse, but well, like marine clean energy is. I know they have Richmond and they have a lot of other things, but there may be people whose price sensitivity is less because they have more disposable income and they can afford it. If you're dealing with, and that would be another interesting element of research on the opt-outs is, do they tend to come from, informed rich people who get mad and just say, well, forget it, I'm going back? Or is it more like truly lower income people who feel the magnitude of it on their bill? I don't know.
We'll find out over time, and I don't think this is this is public information, so
Yeah,
we
yeah.
compiled it, but
Yeah,
as an industry, it's not something to be super proud of.
So my goal is to never have to be a bar on the left.
We should be.
So I'm trying to be prudent now.
yeah. This is,
Um,
Sean, this is why you won the Innovator of the Year.
Well,
This
we're
is-
not messing around on affordability, but unfortunately, we just have to meet it now, so.
So that
Gonna
comes
be
to where
okay.
we're almost in a moment where you have to leave. That comes to our last 2 pages recommended. So Donnie kind of beat me to it. Our recommendation right now is a little baby step into it. So set rates at 5%
Mhm.
starting July. We
Mhm.
think we can still afford it.
Mhm.
And there's other sort of PR reasons with the name change.
Mhm.
And others. But with the expectation, we're not setting them now, but I do want to plant an important seed, hopefully with you and the board,
Mhm.
that it's my expectation that we'll probably have to go to, maybe it's not 1%, maybe it's 2%, but something lower in January. At that point, we will have, it won't be a forecast anymore. We'll have a better idea of what the PCIA is going to be and what PG&E is going to be. So we can kind of buy some time until we get that data point. If it comes to reality, that graph, we are likely gonna have to go down to whatever it's 2 or 3, we can have that conversation at that time. But this is at 5% in July and 1% thereafter, just because I had to assume something. You can see the numbers will be a little different than those graphs because they're between those lines. You can see the cash, which is probably the most important, and you can see the
Mhm.
days cash on hand. On this next graph, is the last page, this is using our rate stabilization fund and what that means to our change in net position. If things continue as they are right now, we're hoping to be able to add to our rate stabilization fund this year.
Yeah.
Where if we can, that would be an extra $20 million. That's what I've assumed here. And then we'd have to basically utilize that completely over the next 2 years.
Yeah.
And this still shows us at a slight loss in those out years.
Yeah.
So this scenario changed for us about 30 days ago when we got new forecasts. And for the first time ever, I'm hoping that one of our expert team members
Wrong.
it turns out to be wrong. in the fall, but that's why we're starting just to populate this idea that we might have to go below a 5% discount. Is not anything that we're super interested in doing, but let's see what happens. We will know by December 31. And then, really
October, we
understand
should have a much better idea.
much better, but you never really know. That can
Sure.
shift between October and December. So,
And John,
we'll let you
and
know.
I know Mark's here too. I mean, this PCIA problem obviously exists for everyone. So I think while we're working on this end with financials and understanding it, I hope I
Yeah.
mean,
Going to the legislature. So there is a
Yeah.
bill this year. It doesn't solve the problem, but it opens up the conversation and educates legislators about,
what's happening.
yeah, and the fact that this whole thing was meant to expire.
Yes.
And when you have contracts rolling off, your exit fee should go away.
Yeah.
And now we
100%.
have utility-owned generation. There's a number of reasons why it continues in perpetuity. There probably should be some pushback on that.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
we're lining up for more legislative, I hope,
Yeah,
activity next year.
And I would also hope, also reaching out to the governor's office too.
Once we know who that's gonna be.
so yeah, we've had a little bit of an all hands on deck when we've seen this PCIA situation, had some crack teams get together. What can we do? We don't want to be sitting on our hands.
Right.
The regulatory team, Justin Kudos on my team, all hands on deck, trying to get Cal CCA aligned. What can we do? Pull out utility owned generation, lobby.
Right,
We're
yeah.
trying to change the math, the equation. We're
Well, it
doing
just
everything.
seems so like, when you're paying your CEO, I don't know, 20 million or something, and your returns to invest on the IOUs, and then we're still bearing the brunt of all that, it's not,
Well, and they're still receiving 9% return on capital.
yeah,
As
9%
well.
return on capital, yes.
It's guaranteed. So
Yeah.
that's a whole nother kettle of fish.
No,
Anyway,
100%.
we don't get that.
So
We have
any
no.
Questions, thoughts on this recommendation, idea? This is meant to be, we'd love
I know
input before we go
we've
to the
gotta
board.
leave.
Yeah, sorry.
Do you have any thoughts?
I feel like Mark's had his hand up.
Oh, sorry.
But you're leaving first. Mark, we can catch Elmer first because he's gotta leave and then we'll come back to
Sure.
you. Thank you.
I appreciate
Yeah,
that.
of course.
I guess my big reaction is, I know 5% was the standard before,
Yeah.
jumping from 10 to 5 in a year, I imagine would be a sticker shock just to people who are paying the bill, but I'm
It's
curious.
not really.
No, it's not really. It's
Okay.
like $4 a month
Okay,
or something like that on the average bill, or $4 to $8.
Because remember that it's the electric generation portion of the bill. So it's not the entire bill. So actually the net impact of that is smaller than you think.
okay,
Yeah.
amazing,
Yeah.
yeah, just thinking about affordability, so that's
Right,
the
right.
one thing I was really
Right, I
worried
took a look
about.
at my bill just this week, just to
Yeah.
see.
Yeah, me
I
too,
rounded it,
last
and
night.
It was like $2.
It's not.
It's like-
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay,
yeah,
that makes me feel a lot better.
yeah, it's not. When you translate the percentage into actual dollars, it becomes like,
And that's why when you're, you have a fair bit of elasticity with customers, even if we've never been over, and I hope we never will. But you've got a bandwidth of elasticity. I don't know what's happening
Mark?
up at 30%.
Yeah, okay.
Mark, go ahead.
Yeah, thanks for the presentation. There's a lot I don't understand about PCIA. Seems very complicated, but I do understand bills. And paying electric bills. I mean, one point I would make is that I think PCE probably when you're getting going 10 years ago, it was super important to get people locked in and say, yeah, we're charging under, 10% under what PG&E is charging. But at the moment, you have all these people who have been locked into, Peninsula Clean Energy for what, 8, 9, 10 years now. And I don't think raising the rates, as long as you can say honestly, yeah, it's lower than PG&E. I don't think a whole lot of people are going to churn based on that, especially given if it's $4 a month. Increase when going up to PG&E would be more than that. So I definitely would support raising the rates to be economically viable, because if suddenly Peninsula Clean Energy is like, hey, we're not a viable entity, we need to raise our rates 30% to compensate, or
Right.
that's going to be much worse.
Yeah.
So
And Mark, it was originally 5% when we started. So it's always been 5, and then just when our reserves started to increase, rather than putting more into programs, which we couldn't really implement because we didn't have enough scale. We went ahead and reduced, which we felt was more like beneficial to everyone, all the ratepayers across the board. Then next we have Mayor Annabelle, please.
Yes, I do believe we have to stay solvent, so that's very important, and we all know that. But my question is, as we pay down our reserves, is it going to affect our ratings that will end up charging us more for money?
Go ahead.
It could. The rating agencies really like to see a days cash on hand above 250 days. So you can see in this forecast, we are out to 2029, which again, who knows past then. So I'm hoping, I know hope's not a strategy, that it doesn't result in a downgrade, but as those numbers go down, that is a potential risk. And something we need to manage. So I will say we have no debt outstanding, so I'm not saying we would want to, but if we were ever to be downgraded by the rating agencies, there's not a direct financial impact. And it could be a trade-off we're willing to make. Maybe we want to have more discount in our customer's pocket versus a higher rating, so.
It's very interesting, Mayor Annabelle, there's a sort of yin and yang here where, you know, people tend to push like, I want an A+, like they think it's a grade at school. But the problem with
Costs you
getting
something.
the highest rating is there's nowhere to go but down. So sometimes having a rating of like A or even A- is not that bad in overall in the optimization of the world of finance. It's okay.
And the
So-
costs may not justify the benefits.
Yeah, and the cost may not justify the benefits. So I think we're in really good shape. We've always been what I would call investment grade and above, and I think that's our goal, is to stay investment grade. And at that point, we should be able to manage that within this realm. And as you know, the variability, as the farther you go out, the variability gets harder and harder to appreciate and understand. And that can, you know, we may solve the PCIA problem under a new governor with the new legislature. And those numbers may get much more optimistic.
It includes contingency too, so if we don't have to use that.
There's
so
money in contingency, so.
Okay,
I
thank
wanna
you. Last
just,
page.
I wanna take any members of the public who would like to comment on this.
If there are any members of the public who wish to give comment, if you'll please raise your hand in the Zoom app. Seeing none, Chair.
Cool. Thank you very much. None here. We'll go ahead and close public comment. Are there any concluding remarks anyone would like to make? Okay, well then I just want to thank both of you for the amazing work that you've done on this. We're seeing sort of big aggregated numbers, but when you look down underneath the compilation of data and information that has to be coalesced in order to get to the big number is, I know, huge. So,
And I'd also like to give
and
my.
all of our departments, and all of our.
Yeah. I'd also like to give my peers a lot of credit. As these numbers came together and we saw the headwinds, we realized we really needed to tighten our belts. And so we've had several rounds of, I don't say cost reduction because they're not dollars spent, but really bringing the budget, the forecast down. What can we live without? What trade-offs can we make? We pulled out almost 10% of operating expenses
Yes.
over the forecast period. So give them a lot of credit for everyone.
I do want to acknowledge that as well. I know I've been in conversation with Sean regarding everything from our cost structure on our salaries and things, and how sensitive the organization and the staffers have been around making sure that we stay solvent
Absolutely.
and understanding that, you know, impending financial implications. Also things like the the redo of the office space to cut costs there, and other things like that have been really, really important. Okay,
Up next. Sounds like, I just want to summarize, there are no recommended major adjustments, is
No.
what I'm hearing.
No.
Okay.
do we want a motion
And people
to-
feel comfortable with the going to 5, sort of maybe potentially.
5% is the recommendation? Okay.
Yeah, okay, 5% recommendation. Do you need a vote on this?
We're officially.
Just a consensus.
Yeah.
We're okay.
No vote. This is a discussion item.
Okay, okay, so you're getting a consensus and given, I mean, we may need to do this one more time if there's something that if.
We may not need to,
We may-
I mean, if
Yeah,
the numbers are
we
the
put in
same.
an extra meeting to review this again if it was a lot of controversy. If there's not a lot of controversy, then, and we feel comfortable going with it, then I think we're probably good.
Yeah.
Executive committee now.
Okay. Well, if that's the case, does any committee member have a report? The only committee report I have is that, we're hosting Council of Cities. So if anybody wants to come on Friday, we're gonna be doing it at Mykonos, which if anyone's eaten there, it's fantastic. It's kind of like a fun buffet. And then we're walking across to the town square to look at the new town square and explain how we financed that and got that going. And we have music, live music, so.
That's
So it's a really fun day. So if you or any of your colleagues want to come or if people are around, it's off schedule because of Memorial Day weekend. So a lot of people, I don't think were aware that it's coming up this fast on the 15th. But anyway, I just want to invite everyone. That includes you, Mayor Annabelle. All right, with that, we'll go ahead and close the meeting. Thanks.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.
Thanks for your good questions.